Guys,
Kimura, what are
I'm
you
Denathrius
doing?
now. I'm now the
Is that a
leader.
pet or a mount?
Yeah, it's a mount, you
Is
fucking
that a
idiot.
it's a mount?
Hey everyone, Nubkeks here, and in today's video, I want to talk you through our second day of raiding, or second evening raid, in Castle Nathria, the new raid in Shadowlands. Yesterday, we looked at the first 7 bosses on normal. We're, of course, clearing through normal to get the legendary recipes. A lot of the best legendary recipes for a lot of specs actually drop off the last few bosses of Castle Nathria. And as a lot of folks, a lot of you were agreeing with in the comments, a lot of people are finding the raid to be a big challenge. The raid is a much bigger challenge than I think a lot of us had expected. Certainly, yeah, even in normal, people are having a really hard time. And some of these bosses with the gear we have in the first week are actually pretty damn tough. So I would recommend crafting your legendaries actually this week for most players. Obviously, world first guilds are going to postpone because they want the best thing they can for Mythic. You know, they're world first raiders. They're world first raiding teams. They can clear heroic, probably on alt characters even. They're going to be fine. You know, for most players, though, you're going to be, I think, struggling to possibly clear through normal. Kill as many bosses in normal as you can. Kill as many bosses in heroic as you can, if you're able to. And then, of course, even more important for your loot this week is actually doing Mythic Plus. If you can do a plus 14, which again is pretty tough, if you can do that, you get a Mythic item level piece in your Great Vault, which is huge. But honestly, like, the higher you can push a Mythic Plus key this week, that's probably going to be the best piece of gear you can get from that Great Vault. So I think that's a very good motivation to actually make your legendary this week and start blasting. Anyway, without any further ado, let's dive in here. We're going to be checking out the last few bosses on normal and a couple of heroic bosses as well. First of all, let's talk about Sludgefist. A lot of people actually in the comments were saying they cleared 7 out of 10 like we did on normal, and then they got to Sludgefist. And we're in for a bit of a rude awakening. A lot of people finding Sludgefist to be a very big wall, a very spooky boss. My thoughts on actually playing the fight, we didn't even play it perfectly. I do think that this boss is tough. I think that the boss is not as hard as people think it is. But what I will say is I think that the mechanics the boss does are very disruptive. And there's the sort of things that shake your concentration. And they can be a bit frightening. So that makes it seem worse than it actually is. So, for example, let's cover the most important mechanic actually in the fight first. I think that's the most important thing, which is the chain link. Basically, most of the players in the raid are going to be paired up. You're going to be chain linked to one other random person. Now, it does try to pair melee with melee and ranged with ranged. If you move more than 12 yards away from the person you are chain linked with, you both instantly die. This is going to be it's very nasty, I think, for a normal boss. I think certainly for pugs, this is a huge challenge because that is very, very hard. The things that, again, the other mechanics that go on top of this, which is what I talk about being, you know, kind of scary or disruptive. The boss does a massive knockback, which knocks everyone back and does a big chunk of damage. So that's going to stress out your healers. They're going to be freaking out to heal people up. You know, it can mess with your camera and mess with your positioning, so that's kind of tough. And then the other main mechanic is that there's going to be these rock falls. You're going to have cave-ins happening in the room. So obviously you don't stand in the cave-in, but they leave permanent pools on the ground which do damage and slow you down. And they're also spawning randomly, so you're never quite sure where it is safe to stand, which is quite rough. I definitely think that the easiest way to handle this, I didn't want to do this because I think it makes the fight slightly, moderately harder on heroic. And it would make it's just a strategy that will not work on Mythic, which is, well, on normal, I think just put a marker on a ranged DPS and have everyone stack on that marker at all times. Like all the ranged, obviously. Maybe put another marker for the melee. And yeah, just the ranged all follow that marker and stand on it. I think that makes it super easy. And just focus on moving and standing somewhere safe in line of sight of the boss, and you're chill. That's really all you have to worry about. It's not that bad. Just don't stand and poop and you're good. The reason I don't want to do it is mostly for Mythic. It's something of a bad habit to do if you're going to be going into Mythic. I think this boss is going to be a nightmare on Mythic, because on Mythic there's also going to be these AoE circles around everyone that will explode and do AoE damage to everyone near you. So everyone has to be spread around the room. You cannot overlap. This also means that you have to be spread from your chain link partner so you don't hit them with those AoE circles as well. I presume that that's going to overlap with knockback, so you're going to be knocking everyone back and then AoE circles around them exploding. It's going to be pretty nasty. It's going to be pretty horrible on Mythic. I think I'm not going to like this boss at all on Mythic. It's going to be super frustrating. You know, one-shot mechanics with chains? Yeah, we'll see. But anyway, in order to kill this boss, he also does this charge. He's going to about every 1 minute, he's going to pick a tank, charge at them. The tank can make them the boss charge into a pillar, which destroys the pillar, causes more cave-ins, but most importantly makes Sludgefist take double damage for 12 seconds. So try line up your DPS CDs with that and nuke him down. What I found was, again, our raid is still fairly under-geared, and a lot of people did not have legendaries. I found that we were fine on the damage, actually. We were bloodlusting on the third pillar. I think if everyone just stays alive, like I said, put a marker on the ranged player and just move safely. Don't even worry too much about DPS. Just, you know, don't stand in the poop and just stay stacked up so the chain links are easy to do. And I think the boss then is actually very easy. But yeah, just don't freak out about the cave-ins. Don't freak out about the chain links. Just stay calm, stay cool, move around. And so long as you guys stay alive, you've got 4 pillars boosting your damage. I think it'll mostly be fine. In fact, I played Shadow Priest on this one because I kind of wanted to blast big for fun. I think that was probably a mistake. I think if I just played a healer, it would have been even more chill. Like, people would have been just topped off on health a lot more often and could have just relaxed a bit and focused more on just moving cleanly, and they wouldn't have had to worry about moving through pools if they had to, etc. And taking extra damage, because we did like a 26-person raid with 4 healers, which is, yeah, it's a little bit tight. Anyway, it was fine though. Sludgefist, this was the boss we had the most wipes on. I think we had 5 wipes on Sludgefist. Yeah, definitely, you know, people will die to the chain links, and that's going to screw you ultimately. But yeah, there you go, Sludgefist, the wall boss, I think, for a lot of guilds, a lot of pugs especially, in normal Nathria so far. Next up, we're looking at the Stone Legion Generals, and yeah, this is undertuned. let's be brutally honest here. This fight is way too easy, way easier than it should be. It's kind of relaxing, honestly. After Sludgefist is a little bit stressful. You can come into the Stone Legion Generals, and you're gonna have a pretty good time, I think. So yeah, if you kill Sludgefist, you should kill this pretty quick. I think we killed it on the first pull, actually. What's going on in this fight? I think this fight's actually pretty cool. It has some cool mechanics. I've heard it's kind of easy enough on Heroic as well. I hope this fight's good on Mythic, because I think it has good potential. Just on the beta, they went through several iterations of this fight, so they had a lot, very limited testing, so clearly tuning the fight appropriately has been something they've challenged with, and it's ended up a little bit too easy. But basically, what's happening here, you're fighting, at the start, there's 2 bosses, right? And in phase 1, you're going to fight General Call, and General Grishal is going to be flying around. In phase 2, you're going to fight General Grishal, and General Call is going to be flying around. And then in phase 3, where we lusted, you're going to fight both bosses at the same time. Sort of kill them off before they kill you. General Call is throwing around the Wicked Blades. It's the same mechanic. In fact, she is the same boss as the last boss of Sanguine Depths, so she's doing the same thing. Just try not to hit multiple people with the bleeds. The biggest mechanic of this entire fight, actually, is General Grishal's Stonebreaker combo. He's going to pick a random person in the raid, and he's going to cast Crystallize on them. It's going to be this circle effect. What you can do is that basically the tanks are getting permanent bleeds, and the Wicked Blades that Call is throwing out are putting permanent bleeds on players. So anyone who has a bleed can then step into this crystallized circle and get their bleeds removed. After that, then Grishal throws a meteor on that person, so you need to get everyone in to soak that meteor, right? So it's going to do 2 soaks, basically. So soak 1 is anyone that has a bleed, soaks that, and then after that, a crystallized soak, everybody gets in and helps soak the meteor, so the person doesn't get one shot. And that's most of the fight, to be brutally honest. Now, there is actually a fun little intermission phase. Each time you bring a boss to 50% health, where basically they go stone form, they become effectively immune to damage, and then you have some ads landing in, and also these anima orbs like dropping from the sky and landing on the floor. So what you want to do is just go grab all those anima orbs, drop them all into Prince Renathal, who's in the back of the room, and once he reaches 100 energy, he's going to do this anima blast, which is going to knock the boss out of the stone form, and then trigger the next phase of the fight. So yeah, again, just that's all you gotta do is collect the anima orbs. It's pretty chill. in stage 2, you're fighting General Grishal, so he's still doing his old crystallized thing and meteor thing. So keep doing that. Then his big new mechanic is, again, not too bad. He's going to mark people with a debuff. It's called Seismic Upheaval, I think. Just drop those off to the side of the room, and it's going to leave a permanent earth patch on the ground. And then every time he casts the ability, all of the permanent earth patches are then, again, going to erupt. So you essentially have to have someone go and soak, one person per circle, and soak them. We only got about 5 of them total, in the end. It wasn't too bad, but I think having them stacked up fairly consistently is going to help. I actually died to this, right? Just be very careful, because each one erupts and does a flat chunk of damage to anyone inside of it. So I soaked one, but I soaked it on the edge of the circle. So then when my teammate came and he dropped his circle, he actually overlapped my circle, and I was caught in the overlap, which one-shot me. So do be careful about that. You don't have to hard stack the circles. You actually, on normal, have tons of space. It's extremely chill. Well, again, we one-shot this, so our strategy was very rough, and we didn't really know what we were doing. I would recommend, just loose stack the stone circles on the right-hand side of the room, go to the left-hand side of the room with the wicked blades, and you're super chill. And then just drop the crystallize and meteor just in front of the boss, and have people step in if they need to remove the bleeds, and otherwise. But yeah, this boss, again, like I said, lots of us died. We had so many deaths because we didn't exactly know what stuff was happening, and we still killed the boss without too much stress. Very undertuned. I hope that is better, like I said, on the higher difficulties, because I think this boss is cool, very cool. But yeah, it's certainly on this difficulty. It is very easy, and a lot easier than Sludgefist or Sire Denathrius. And then our final our final normal boss for this video is Sire Denathrius. Yes, the final boss of the raid. And what was really fun about this one, especially for me, was that I hadn't seen any guilds actually fight any of these last 3 bosses. So I kind of, I'd done my own preparation and a little bit of stuff from logs. But these bosses were something of a progress encounter for me, which was actually, to be honest, an awful lot of fun. Sire Denathrius, phase 1, I found to be quite challenging. Essentially, we're trying to work out how to deal with the debuff. So what happens is everyone starts the fight off with 4 debuffs, Burden of Sin. Now, the boss is periodically going to cast a frontal attack called Cleansing Pain, and that's going to remove a stack of the debuff to anyone that stands in that attack. Now, the thing that's dangerous about it is that this also spawns out a whole bunch of adds, and those adds are going to spam AoE damage on the raid, which is very, very spooky. So you can't remove too many at once. I think on like Heroic and maybe, I'm not sure about Heroic, but certainly on Mythic, I believe that he's also going to be doing AoE damage attacks on the raid that are going to scale up to a very nasty level based off of how many stacks people have. So you don't want to have too many people in the same stack. At the start, I was cleansing too few, but then we sort of adjusted our strategy each time to cleanse more and more of these. So the goal was essentially to have everyone at 2 stacks of Burden of Sin by the time we phase the boss. He phases at 70% health. We had 5 cleansing pains would happen. In fact, I was playing Shadow for the first few pulls, and we would only have 4 cleansing pains, and we got absolutely destroyed. So what we did then was I swapped to Holy, which made the fight significantly easier, and especially because as the Shadow Priest, I wasn't spec'd into AoE, so I couldn't help with these adds. And that sort of ensured we got 5 cleansing pains, and that worked really well. That was perfect. With a 26-person group, I essentially split the teams into we had 5 groups, and we had the 5 cleansing pains. We just had 3 groups per cleansing pain. Again, I just did groups 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 4, 3, 4, 5, 5, 1, 2, 1, 4, and 5. So every group got at least 2 or 3 cleanses off on them. We made the shamans and the DK didn't need to soak. They could just the shamans could ghost wolf. The DK could just walk without much reduced movement speed to get in. So they could kind of cheese the mechanic a bit. You could have priests go in with really low stacks and life grip people in. That could be a thing as well. So yeah, there's a few ways to deal with it. That is by far the hardest part of the fight, though, was dealing with that. I don't know if it's I don't know if we were doing it the right way. I felt like it was pretty challenging because there was a lot of adds and a lot of damage coming in whenever you cleanse those debuffs. But anyway, we got through it after a few pulls and a couple of adjustments, and that was the strat that we did, and it worked fine. In phase 2 then, phase 2 is pretty cool. You're fighting Denathrius. He also has his sword Remornia there as well. So Remornia is going to do an attack kind of like the first boss from Temple of Sethralis, if you remember that from BFA, where it's going to dash around between a few players and put bleeds on them, so just try not to overlap that on people. There's also going to be a bunch of these ads coming in as well. You're going to have one on the left and the right on these platforms at the edge, and you're going to have 2 under the boss as well on the main platform. So we had the melee kill the ones close to the boss. The boss also does a frontal attack, which puts a damage taken increase debuff on everything that it hits. So the tanks could actually bait that onto the 2 ads and just have your melee dodge it. So that helps kill the melee ads. The ranged focus the ones on that are far. Again, we just killed them left to right, so the ranged killed the left one, then they swapped to the far right one. They killed the far left one, then the far right one. The melee killed the close left one, then the close right one. And that was what we did. Now, the other big mechanic of this phase, there's a couple. There's a couple. One of the big ones is Hand of Destruction. Denathrius sucks you all to his position, and he creates a ghost of himself that will explode after a few seconds. Now, there are these mirrors around the room, and what you do is you're just fighting him beside the mirror, beside the ads. When he casts the ability, he sucks you in, you step through the mirror so that you're far away and you don't take much damage from it at all. And then once it's exploded, you step back through and finish off any ads. Then the second time, you step through the mirror, but you stay on the other side because you have another set of ads spawn on the other side of the room. So then you're over there and sort of repeat the process. The other big thing is Command Massacre, which is super badass. The whole room goes dark, and then the sword just starts going crazy. This is the reason, guys, that Sire Denathrius has been collecting all the anime power during the Shadowlands storyline. This is the reason. It makes sense now. This is what it's been all about. But yeah, it looks badass. I thought this ability was super cool. And yeah, that's kind of phase 2. It's actually not too bad, honestly. I thought phase 1 was the biggest challenge. And then after that, you're going to go into a phase 3 where you're still in this bottom room, but there's essentially a big storm covers the edges of the room, so you're really locked into the center. It's just important that you make sure you've killed all of the ads going into this. It'd be very, very bad if any ads were still alive, because I think you wouldn't be able to actually kill them then. And you're just fighting Sire Denathrius. To be honest, we killed this the first time we saw it, so I wasn't even fully sure what everything that was going on. He's still going to be doing the Ravage thing, which I didn't mention in phase 1, but essentially he marks off a third of the room. Periodically, he'll just block off a third of the room with this big attack that leaves a pool of blood on that third of the room. So you have to, it's kind of like the time limit, right? The enrage timer, you have to move around. Wasn't too bad. That never affected us really. Just move out of it with a wind rush. And yeah, he's still going to do the explosion where he sucks you in and explodes. That's obviously harder because you don't have a mirror now to escape with. So you just have to, again, use a wind rush or a stampeding roar or something and run away. There were circles that we just dropped off of the group. They did some damage, restacked back in, that sort of thing. There's still the Command Massacre happening. But yeah, it's kind of like a Bloodlust and burn the boss down. And wasn't too bad, to be honest. Yeah, honestly, the guild really enjoyed this fight. Even though it's only on normal, we found this one super cool. It just has that badass vibe. You can definitely tell that this boss has incredible potential to be awesome on heroic. It'd be a really great challenge and a really just visually cool challenge for most players in the game, where heroic is, it's a massive achievement, right? And then, for players that are going into Mythic as well, obviously there's always secret Mythic mechanics that we don't know about until we actually see this boss on Mythic. It's going to be awesome to watch the Race to World first and see what those are. I think this boss has, again, the potential to be absolutely insane and incredible. So, yeah. Very good. Sire Denathrius was cool. Really enjoyed this one. It was really badass. And I got the battle pet of the Remornia sword afterwards. So I guess I'm Sire Denathrius now, which is pretty cool. So there you are, guys. Let's jump into Heroic and see how that went for us. Actually, before we jump into Heroic, just very quick, I want to show you our wipe counts for normal. So we had 0 on Shriekwing, 1 on Huntsman, 1 on Hungering Destroyer, 1 on Lady Nerva, none on Artificer, 3 on the Sun King, and 3 on Council of Blood. Then 5 on Sludgefist, 0 on Stone Legion Generals, and 4 on Sire Denathrius. Overall, I know that they've nerfed Sun King a lot, which is good, because I thought Sun King was too hard and a bit boring. I thought that was bad. Council of Blood, I actually think that perhaps on normal you would change the kill order, and that would make the fight a lot easier. People were saying that if you killed Stavros early, then the fight became way easier. So that's probably what I recommend. We killed Frida first and then kill Stavros last. I think for normal raiders, I think swapping around and killing Stavros first and then Frida last is going to be significantly yeah, significantly easier because the tank damage that Frida does or the damage she does isn't that bad. Whereas the movement, like, the damage scales up a lot over the difficulties, but the movement requirements from Stavros are as hard on normal as they are on mythic, basically. So yeah, that's sort of my recommendation there. Like I said, Sludgefist is kind of the wall just because it's a lot of one shots and it's stuff that's very disruptive. And then Denathrius was pretty cool. So yeah, not too bad on normal overall. I certainly think that, yeah, I think it's actually pretty well tuned. It's a challenge, and I think that's good. I'm actually very happy that the raid's a challenge. But yeah, let's go check out Heroic. Alright guys, well, the first boss obviously we're fighting on Heroic is Shriekwing. And Shriekwing is mostly the same as it was on normal difficulty. There's one new mechanic, which actually adds a lot to the fight. I thought it made the fight a lot better, which is, it's called Echoing. I think it's Echoing Shriek. Echoing Screech, sorry. That's different. There's the ear-splitting Shriek, which is the line of sight mechanic, and then there's the Echoing Screech, which is the new mechanic. What this basically does, it will pick a random player. For us, it always seemed to target ranged, and Shriekwing will face those players and then shoot out a bunch of those like little echo swirlies that bounce around the room. On normal, they only show up in the intermission phase. So I thought this made Heroic much more interesting because you actually have more stuff to do during the main phase. During phase 1, you have to actually be dodging those circles as well, which I thought was pretty cool. I thought that definitely added to the fight. This is our positioning. I'm going to pop up an image on the screen. I hope this will help you guys a lot. It was really one of the things I enjoyed most about this, of course, is that, it's like optimizing fights, right? Coming in a second time, having time to think about them on the first kill. This is what I enjoy most about like raid leading, is like making the plan better, improving it. And this is what we did for Shriekwing. So you can see the markers. Essentially, we tanked the boss on Skull. What this means is that it's very easy for the range to line of sight the ear-splitting Shriek at Star, and it's very, very easy for the melee, most importantly, to line of sight it at Green, which is just around the corner from where you're tanking the boss. You're basically tanking your boss at the gate upwards that you go through after you beat this boss. We also had secondary markers set up at Cross, Blue, and Orange that we could use if there ended up getting, people accidentally got bloods in the way on the first few markers, especially the Skull and Green. But yeah, I found this positioning, this worked really well. It lets the melee get much better uptime, and it's super chill. It's actually very chill. Phase 2 is still definitely the hardest. Make sure that you're dodging those echoes. That's where we were falling up, is that players were messing up and hitting those. When you start getting hit by the echoes, this is the thing, this fight can go wrong really fast. If you execute it well, if you do it properly, the fight's really easy. But, if one person makes a mistake and they get hit by the echo, then they get targeted and they leave a permanent pool of blood on the ground. And that permanent pool of blood gets in people's ways, makes it harder for them to dodge the mechanics. And then it's harder to dodge the mechanics. Maybe another person or two people make a mistake, get hit by an echo. Now there's 2 more pools on the ground. And yeah, it can snowball out of control very fast. So this is definitely a fight that it's not that hard to play it well, but you do have to concentrate a little bit for sure. But yeah, hopefully that positioning thing does help you out. We wiped on this boss once, and then we killed it the second time. It certainly wasn't clean. It certainly wasn't clean at all, but we got through it. I actually, like I said, on normal, I found the boss kind of boring. I actually think the boss is quite enjoyable on Heroic. It's that the Echoing Screech adds that mechanic that was needed. So there you are. And then the final boss we're going to talk about in today's video is Huntsman Altimor. This was the last boss we had time to do. On our Thursday raid, we're going to be back raiding again on Sunday. So I'll give you guys an update on Sunday and see how far we get through Heroic and what I think of the bosses on Heroic. But yeah, Huntsman Altimor has been, again, very infamous as absolutely smacking guilds down. Not only on Heroic, where he's been a big wall for a lot of guilds, but on normal, a lot of guilds are struggling there too. I definitely think that the trick about this boss actually isn't that hard, but it does require some specific coordination, which, I think for a lot of players, especially newer players or less experienced raiders, that's going to be a very big challenge. But once you've got a good plan, and I think once you assign people in the raid to do their job, you're going to find this isn't too bad. It's not too bad. So the big change for Huntsman Altimor is that it's really the second dog that's hard, right? The first dog is still basically the same. The first dog still does its lunge on players. You just split the soak. It's very, very chill. Sin Seeker does a lot more damage on heroic, so there's a lot more raid damage going out, but it's not too bad. It's the second dog that's really hard, and the third dog is hard too. But Barghast. So Barghast still does the rip soul, right? Where it's going to rip a soul out from your tank and your healers have to heal it up. So again, you know, tank use a defensive or use an external cooldown on the tank so they're high health when that rip soul goes off. So there's not as much to heal. It's easier to heal depending on that. And yeah, then the healers can top it up. That rip soul pulses raid damage, but we found it to be relatively easy to actually heal up. It wasn't too much of a stress. That extra raid damage it's doing on heroic wasn't too bad. What is tough is the shades of Barghast. On normal, you got 1 shade of Barghast. On heroic, you actually get 2. And I think that is where the big challenge is. What you have to do with these shades of Barghast is very important. You have to just leave them in long-term crowd control until they get to about 15 or 20 stacks or so. That's very, very important. What we did was quite simple. We had our... So the strategy we eventually settled on, it's kind of hard to judge. I think they might build up stacks, increasing their damage taken faster, depending on how many different CCs you have on them. I'm not actually 100% sure about that, though. We had a few wipes because one of our warlocks missed the memo about not putting dots on the ads, so he kept putting agony on the ads, which, you know, meant they kept breaking out of crowd control. And then the druids obviously had Starfall running. I think one of our druids has Convoke the Spirits, which would trigger Starfall. So, you know, the agony would break the Shade of Barghast out of CC. Then one of the DPS players would re-CC it instantly, seeing that, but there'd already be a Starfall star triggered, and that would be falling down. Then that would hit the ad after you'd re-CC'd it and instantly break it out. It was definitely a big mess. What we did, though, we had bigwigs auto-mark the ads, and then I just had a few players assigned to each one. So we had a mage assigned to each one to polymorph each shade of Barghast. We had druids that could hibernate the shades of Barghast. Demon hunters can imprison the shades of Barghast, and hunters can freezing trap them. They can also fear them. We decided not to use fears just because it can make the ad split up. And when the ad spawned in, we'd also have a Death Knight go and grip them. He'd grip the moon one onto the green one, basically try to stack them together so that it's going to be really easy to kill them and just to visualize and see them as well. But yeah, I actually think, you know, when they spawn in, stunning them would be good too. Like if you got someone with a ranged stun, something like a Shadow Priest is great. Holy Priest can do it as well. Just smack him with a stun, let the Death Knight then grip them together, and then polymorph them, hibernate them, hit them with freezing traps, swap onto them with about 15 or 20 stacks. Yeah, that's basically what you're going to do. We got 2 sets of these, which is a bit rough because we had to kill the second set during the third dog, which is kind of a bit stressful for sure. I think as you get more gear, you'll be able to push the boss, only getting 1 set of those shades. Might even be worth using Harrow in phase 2, so you only get 1 set of shades. Again, it's not fully optimized yet. I suspect that you could do something like during a Rip Soul cast where you have to move Barghast himself away from the boss. You could use that to kill the dogs, like move Barghast onto the 2 shades and then just nuke them all together, like cleave them all together. That could be really effective. Certainly something to consider. But yeah, that's the hard part of the fight, making sure you get good CC. Once you'd go do damage to those ads, they should have massively increased damage taken and kind of fall over. We also had, we had a rogue assigned to each one to kidney shot, and they had the talent where targets take 10% more damage for even more damage taken just to help kill those things quickly. And then phase 3. Phase 3 actually is still very hard. Basically, Hecutus, he puts these pools on people that leave these permanent patches on the ground. That's super chill. That really doesn't matter. What makes this hard is that he's building up stacks, and whenever you move him, he starts dropping those stacks and nuking the raid. And this does a lot of damage. This does an awful lot of damage. So that was kind of tough, to be honest with you. Yeah, the healing requirements are pretty high for that. So I definitely can see where a lot of people are going to struggle. You know, you get through Barghast with the CC requirements and just, you know, having that little bit of control. And then you go into phase 3 where your healers really have to blast and you're kind of hoping they have mana left. I highly recommend you have your healers decked out with mana potions. That's going to make a huge difference for this fight. But there you go. That is Huntsman Altimor. Definitely going to be a big challenge, I think, while under geared here on Heroic, for sure. But there you go, guys. Let me know, how has your progress gone? Have you guys done a second raid day? How has it gone? Any updates? I will again catch you guys on, well, I'll stream on Sunday. I'll stream our raid, and then I'll do the day 3 video probably on Monday. That'll be up so you can see how we did. I think we're going to Artificer. I don't know how to say it yet. I think we'll go do that boss next. That one looks pretty chill. And then I haven't fully decided what boss 4 will be. But yeah, guys, good luck with the raid. I hope you're enjoying it as much as we are. I really enjoyed the second night even more than the first night. Again, these bosses are a bit more challenging and more fun for me. So that was really cool. And for me, again, like I said, I really love optimizing these strats and improving them. So guys, I will see you all next time. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.